Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
I'm Marcy Gonzalez.
And I can get into stalking. I can.
Cool. Good to know.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome back to the Watchers in the Basement, or welcome if you are new, or should I say, hello, you. Consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. All you got to do is just click that button down below. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, so help make that happen. Today, we are talking about the epic part 1 of the final season of Netflix hit series You. And y'all, I can't wait to jump into it. Real quick, I'm just going to give a little spiel of who are the main characters in this show. Penn Badgley returns as Joe. Oh, see, now I want to say Joel. I say Joe for the Last of Us and Joel for You. Okay, Joe Goldberg, people. He is a now rich serial killer who returns to New York. Charlotte Ritchie plays Kate Lockwood Goldberg. She is Joe's English wife and the CEO of TR Lockwood Corporation. Griffin Matthews, oh my gosh, I love Griffin in the show as Teddy Lockwood. Mm-hmm. He's a snarky yet loyal brother-in-law of Joe who was never fully accepted by the Lockwood family. We'll talk about that momentarily. Anna Camp. I could not believe Anna Camp was playing dual roles as twins, Reagan and Maddie Lockwood. Reagan is a very cutthroat CFO of the Lockwood Corporation and has her eyes on the throne. And Maddie is a thrice divorced socialite whose job is, quote, vaguely PR and a master manipulator. Let's just be real. And lastly, but certainly not least, from The Handmaid's Tale, Madeline Brewer is Bronte. I'm going to say Bronte because I don't want to say too much at this point. She is an enigmatic and free-spirited playwright who comes to work for Joe. Marcy, I'm going to start with you. What are your overall thoughts on episodes 1 through 5 of the final season of You?
Pretty much what happens every time I watch You. The first few episodes are going kind of slow. So I'm like, okay, is this going to pick up? Is it going to pick up? And it does pick up. The end of season 5, I thought it was perfect that we leave with kind of a little cliffhanger that sets us up for the rest of the season. So overall, I thought the season was good. I thought this first part, again, started off kind of slow, but then it gives like a good little payoff at the end of episode 5 to then finish out the story of Joe. Overall, I thought it was good. I loved the addition of the new characters. Teddy, Anna Camp was great. She plays these types of roles so well. If you know you've seen Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix, she played Deirdre Robespierre, which is also like this kind of rich white lady that's kind of unhinged. So I thought she was perfect.
She was also in True Blood. She played a rich white lady that was also religiously unhinged as well.
And she was in Pitch Perfect, although not maybe wealthy. That's, who knows? Who cares? Mm-hmm. Unhinged is still in her repertoire of characters. So yeah, she does so well as the Lockwood twins. And obviously we're going to talk way more about it. Frank, my friend, you've only watched episodes 1 through 5. So Marcy and I will do our best to make sure we don't spoil 6 through 10 for you. But what did you think of the first part of You?
Like Marcy said, it came off kind of slow. I was actually kind of surprised of the writing as far as like the timeline of like the last 3 years of Joe just chilling, not killing anybody, just I don't know how that kind of like threw me for a loop. Like, how does somebody who's been just killing people left and right for years just goes on a three year like non-killing spree? I thought I was kind of not on brand for the character, especially now that he has money and resources. I feel like he would have been in overdrive with people. But that was kind of surprising. I was kind of surprised by the writing going that direction. But by episode 3, man, like it takes off, and Joe's back to his own antics of covering shit up. And I've never seen a motherfucker love bomb himself as much as he does. Like I've seen love bombing up close and personal, but for somebody to love bomb themselves and convince themselves that they found like the one every fucking season, I think that's something that I've never seen before. That's amazing. It's amazing to me, and like how his relationships go dull so quickly after finding quote unquote true love. So there's some redundancy to the character, but again, like the adventures of a serial killer, it makes it exciting to watch. Now, because now I'm invested. Now, like, when is he gonna get caught? Like, I can't stop watching. I have to see this to the end because there's been so many close calls, and he can't keep getting away with it, right? You would think not, but it's kind of like an adult version of like, where in the fuck is Carmen Sandiego? I'm just waiting for him to get caught. That's just what it is for me right now. So far, I like the first 5 episodes so far. So.
Yeah, and especially with that cliffhanger that is episode 5, it was really a good place to call a stopping point, because Netflix in the past would just release 5 episodes at a time for part 1, and then about a month later it would be part 2, the remainder of the episodes. And that's kind of what I was anticipating for this release, but they dropped all 10 episodes at once on April 24th. So we have taken our time to watch these episodes, do a couple of rewatches as well. So yeah, we're going to get right into discussing episodes 1 through 5 of the final season of You. Shout out to King B Johnson and M Moves in today's chat. We appreciate you both being here. King B, thank you for the birthday wishes. Yes. Yeah, appreciate it. And once again, always appreciate you being here as well. And hi, M, hope you're doing well. So let us talk about episode 1 of this season, entitled The Luckiest Guy in New York. And like we may have already mentioned it, Joe has returned to New York and has been married to Kate for 3 years at this point. She is the CEO of the TR Lockwood Corporation, which was inherited after her father's untimely passing. And if you guys need a refresher about what happened last season, we do have podcasts breakdowns of all the episodes from season 5. So be sure to go check that out if you need a quick refresher. Let's talk about the fact that Teddy, just kidding, Henry, Joe's son with Love Quinn, is back in their lives. What did y'all think of Teddy and his, why do I keep saying Teddy? I'm going to get this right one day, y'all. I promise. Henry and his relationship with his father, Joe, and his, all intents and purposes, mother, Kate. Marcy.
It seems very sweet. Like, he loves Kate very much. Same sweetness with Joe too. And it's kind of scary that it's like, Joe, how are you going to mess this little kid up? I hope you don't mess this little kid up, Joe. So it's interesting to watch. And then we find out a little bit later this season, I don't know if it's in episode 1, but he also maybe has some tendencies like anger issues and things that he needs to work out. Obviously, he's had a lot of trauma in his young little life, but it's kind of messed up. We come to find out that, as we know in the previous seasons, Joe left him at the house of that couple in Madre Linda so they could raise him, because Joe obviously couldn't. He had just killed Love and was on the run. But they make a mention in this first part of the season that with all of Kate's money, they were able to get him back from his adoptive, for all intents and purposes, fathers. So he's had a lot of trauma and turmoil, even though he's only, I think, about 5 or 6 at this point?
I think they said about 6. And I failed to mention that Henry is played by Frankie DeMaio, who I think is just an absolute adorable child. I love the hair. Like they cast a child that has the same great hair as Penn Badgley. It's like, oh yeah, I could see how they could be related.
Yep.
Frank, with Henry in their lives, I'm trying to think of how I want to ask this question. Did you have any concerns that, kind of like what Marcy talked about maybe there being violent tendencies that may have been inherited from not just Joe,
True,
but Love as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know like genetics, right? When it comes to like the psychosis of a serial killer, I mean, I'm into that. I don't know. What I do know is that when you grow up the way he grew up and have such static change so quickly in his young life, like he saw these parents and Marjorie Linda as his parents, right? And I'm not sure when they got him from the adopted kid parents from Marjorie Linda, but like I don't know, he was 3 or 4. I don't know how old it was, but at some point he recognized those people as his parents in California. Mm-hmm. And now he's back with his biological father and his new stepmom and Kate. That's 4 sets of parents. That's 2 sets of parents within a short time span of a life, right? So I would think from the static movement and abrupt movement of his life, that would cause frustration. That would cause acts of violence being brought out of him. And you saw in one of the episodes when what's his kid is teasing him about his mother, and I think that comes from a place of not having an identity. He's so young and like not knowing who he is, not knowing who his mom is, and all of this stuff. And like he's known 3 moms now. Oh, of 3 moms if you count Love, and it brings you a level of lack of identity, and I think that's what causes a lot of the violence and a lot of the frustration. He's very well read, it seems like. I mean, like his father Joe, like he loves to read, he loves creativity. I mean, he's a creative kid. I root for the kid, but it's like, damn man, you came from fucked up ass genes. I don't know where the story takes him moving forward, but I hope I haven't finished the whole series, the last 5 episodes, but I hope that we see, that I see more of like his origin story of like how he came up, and like get a good synopsis of like his origin story to see. Hopefully that's mentioned in the next 5 episodes, because we don't know much about his past outside of like we know that he was in Marjorie Linda at one point, and they haven't really talked about that. And the transition's been seamless, right? Like he calls Kate mom, like it's nothing. Kate calls her son, like you would have known that he was, Kate adopted him. So I found that kind of odd too. I would like to at least see some type of like, I don't want to say conflict, but like some type of like, uneasiness with him being so young and like still learning, life as a 6-year-old kid.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that when Joe and Kate got Henry back, because it was at the end of season 3 where Joe left Henry with the couple in Madre Linda, left to go to London, presumably there for about a year or so, give or take, right? And then they came back to New York at the end of that season. And now we're in the final season, and it's time has progressed 3 years. So let's say it's about 3, maybe going on 4, that Henry was brought back into Joe's life, and hopefully has transitioned well, right? Henry's at this really prestigious school where he goes to school with his all intents and purposes cousin named Gretchen, who's about a year older. And we'll jump into that when we're talking a little bit more about episode 2. But I do love seeing Henry. And again, I don't want to like spoil things for you, Frank, since you'll need to watch part 2 from here on out. But that is kind of the setup. So with that being said, to kind of put the plot in motion, if you will, there's this gala, lots of important people. Joe is kind of deemed as Prince Charming, right? He is famous now because of Kate and all that she has done with the Lockwood Corporation. She's trying she kind of blindsided her board about this initiative of literacy for foster children and supporting their way through college, and something very personal because Joe, her husband, was in foster care, right? And that's kind of where we get introduced to Reagan, who is the cutthroat half sister, and CFO, who really doesn't like Kate doesn't really like the fact that she's CEO. Whereas Maddie is a little bit more fun, a little bit more lovable, and she calls Joe Boo Boo. This is an important detail to carry on throughout this first half of the season. And then we also meet Teddy. Marcy, talk to us about Teddy. What do you love about him? Like, just tell us about Teddy.
Yeah, so Teddy is illegitimate son of Kate's father with, they said, the help. So we don't know if she was actually like household help or like she was just kind of in lower status and they just think of her as the help. We don't really know who his mom is other than it was extramarital relationship, and he has not been considered part of the family until Kate became CEO and started bringing him more into the fold of things. He is married, has a husband and son, but they don't appear. He tries to keep them away from all of this as much as possible, which is smart. Way to go, Teddy. And he used to run a dog kennel before this. So now he is Kate's chief of staff, very important role. And he seems to be able to like see through bullshit. And he's also, again, kind of like Kate's confidant, right-hand person. So when the season started and we meet Teddy, I'm like, please don't let him die. I like him. So he is still with us throughout this first half of the season. So yeah, one of the new characters that I really enjoyed watching, and just kind of seeing that dynamic. Not only does Reagan hate Kate, she also hates Teddy, and just kind of like seeing the dynamic of Teddy with Reagan is also fun.
Has nothing to do with homophobia or racism at all. At all. Frank, what are your thoughts on Teddy and how he's got bite. He's got a lot of bite, especially when it comes to Reagan just trying to dog on him, and he's just like, listen here.
Yeah, I mean, I like Teddy, man. I think Teddy, he's not bland. I feel like the other siblings are pretty bland and blah and boring, and he has some pizzazz to the family, even though he was, like you said, at a wedlock and like not of them, the original siblings from the same mom. But I love the bite that he has. He brings a special pizzazz to the storyline. And I also like him and Kate's relationship. Like Kate's the only one. I don't think Maddie's mean to him. We didn't see much interaction with Maddie and Teddy, but like we know for a fact Kate, tries her best to include him and create inclusion with the family and bringing him in, as opposed to Reagan and Maddie, especially Reagan, who's just a cunt to everybody. It's amazing how she's CFO, and I know she's not real liked amongst her siblings at all. But I mean, I guess she must be really good at what she does at the boardroom table, I guess. But no, Teddy makes the scenes fun. I love how animated he is. I love his comeback. I love the comebacks to him and Reagan. It's very snappy and very hateful. But yeah, love it.
It's great. And Teddy is important in the plot of what starts off this whole season, because Teddy gets tipped off by a connection with Forbes magazine that there's a hit piece that's going to be published about Kate and some old dealings from back in the day that would ruin her reputation. And that has to do with the pipeline business and giving kids cancer, what have you. And that's just pretty much how her father got his fortune, if you will. And it's really dirty business, but it would absolutely ruin Kate for who she is now, because she always felt like she rightfully deserved all the bad things that happened to her because she played that role in her father's business back in the day. And so Joe is doing something difficult. He obviously doesn't want to disrupt their new lives as he's been clean, if you will. He hasn't murdered anyone in the last 3 years, but he's itching. He's itching, and he needs to scratch that itch, right? So also we need to talk quickly just about Buffalo Bob Kane, who is a family friend of the Lockwoods. He's played by Michael Dempsey, and he is also Kate's mentor who, supports her, what have you. But there's more to him than meets the eye that we will come and find out, because when Teddy and Joe go to confront Reagan, she genuinely has no idea what they're talking about. She's like, I talk to reporters all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. But the quip back and forth between her and Teddy, it's just so good. It's like, it's not my fault that daddy, didn't, God, it's so explicit, didn't put his dick in my mom, and said, went to someone with the vacuum. He goes, yeah, and where was your mom? And he does this gesture of like snorting. I'm like, good God. Oh, Teddy, protect him at all costs. Oh, goodness, y'all. Did y'all have any suspicions that it was Reagan off the top, or was it, anybody else that would have tipped off the magazine about this hit piece?
I figured the family had at least investigators that was just snooping around, because Bob and Reagan have already shown that they don't trust Kate with the being lead dog of the whole operation now that her dad is gone. So I figure with everything that happened in London, and 3 years later, I figured that the sins of the father will come home. It just seemed very, how everything set up for Kate. It just seemed very coincidental that all this happened for Kate to be propelled to the top of the ranks. And I think that would, for people who don't fuck with Kate, Reagan, and I know Bob was a mentor, but Bob is not around for as long as he has without reservations, without thinking outside the box, and like being naturally just inquisitive about and intuitive about certain things. So I figure the family is as with all the resources that they have, that they did have investigators and guys, just snooping around, seeing what they can find to like help shift the power in that boardroom.
Absolutely. And we're just going to keep powering through this episode because we have 4 more to talk about. Marcy, with the fact that Joe discovers the conversation that was being had between the twins and Uncle Bob about the vote of no confidence in Kate, and Joe, instead of actually killing Bob, he fantasizes it. He writes about it. And when Kate discovers where he went one night because he wasn't in bed, she finds him at Mooney's, which, by the way, he now technically owns, right? This is the old bookstore that he used to work at from season 1, what have you. He's thinking about selling it, but he goes to the apartment above Mooney's to write. But he writes about these murder fantasies, if you will. Were you surprised to see the visual that we got wasn't actually happening at all? It was just the visual of the story that he was writing. Were you shocked by that?
Wasn't shocked. I wasn't expecting it, but as we know, especially in the last season, like, we don't know what is true at times because Joe is such an unreliable narrator. And it also leads me to wonder, he has told us he hasn't killed anybody in 3 years. Can we really believe him? Could he have also gone into like one of his states where he's just murdering people like he was in London and not realizing and thinking it was somebody else? So I don't know if maybe he's been good for those whole 3 years. Like Frank said, that's a long time to just like be dormant in your serial killing ways. But no, I wasn't expecting again to be like misdirected with like, oh, he's not actually killing Bob right now. This is him fantasizing about it. But also, if you want to be good and stop killing people, maybe give up the bookstore where you have your glass cage for killing people. Like, if you are saying you've turned over a new leaf, you probably get rid of that and you don't just keep it around.
Yeah, it's like also, I mean, I'm just going to, because you mentioned about the cage, spoiler, y'all, the cage is back. Okay. We see it at the end of this episode in its glory under the basement or in the basement of Mooney's. Does he build that is that the one that stayed there from season 1, you think? Or does he like buy a new one everywhere he moves to? Or does he like disassemble and then reassemble wherever he moves to?
That's a good question. That's what I wondered. And I was like, how did he build this cage? And like, nobody knew what he was doing. And like, where do you get the plans for this? Like, do you find this on the dark web? Like plans for torture cages?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon.
There you go. Right. But yeah, I was like, who built this? How did he build this? How much money did it take to build this? I had a lot of questions about this glass cage.
Yeah. Frank, any thoughts about the cage?
He seems like a very productive and like resourceful guy. I think he's cleaned that cage many, many times. I think it's been the same cage. It's probably been upgraded, for sure. But I think that's the same cage from season 1. And the cage that we saw, there was a cage in Linda, right?
Yep, in the storage unit.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, then he might move that back and forth between Linda and because the house blew up. The house blew up in Linda.
Well, no. He didn't keep it at the house. He kept it in the storage unit at like different locations.
Oh, yeah, might be the same cage.
And then in London, hold on 1 second. Yeah, did he keep it in the house? He kept it at the bakery in Linda. He kept it in the storage unit when he was living in LA. And then in London, he kept it wherever he kept it. So as I'm saying, this thing's traveled potentially. If not, he's just loaded and buys one every time he moves.
I mean, you never know when you meet the love of your life and you need a cage just in case. You just never know.
Oh, Lord Jesus. That's a whole other topic for another day. Let's get back to it, y'all. We meet the new love interest of the season by the name of Bronte. Bronte is played by Madeline Brewer, who I love in The Handmaid's Tale. Bronte is borrowing books from Mooney's, and she's caught by Joe at one point, and they kind of hit it off, right? We also discover that she's sleeping in his shop. And while all of this is happening, Kate is confronting Uncle Bob about the leaked information to the press, and he does reveal that he is the one that has done that and knows about her involvement of that, murder business in back in London. And so now, because Kate is freaking out, she asks Joe, right? They've been good. They're going to keep each other good. They've been good for the last 3 years. But she asks Joe to murder Uncle Bob, which he just couldn't be happier, right? He's serving his purpose as the narration goes. Like he needs to have purpose in order to live, I guess you could say. He's just funny. Marcy, tell us what happens when Joe goes to Uncle Bob's apartment, house, whatever, in New York.
He surprises him, and I felt bad for good old Uncle Bob because, yes, he's trying to get a vote of no confidence, but does he need to die? Probably not. Like, we could probably solve this a different way, but Joe kills him, and it's like not too far into the episode, and I think I stopped it and was like, oh, and I forgot what timestamp it was, but it was like not even halfway into episode 1. Joe is back. He has killed somebody. As much as Uncle Bob pleaded for him not to, Joe could not be stopped. So he kills him. But he's like, let's make this a little spicy. Let's make it seem as if he killed himself. It was a suicide. And everything that he had told the reporters and he tipped everybody off, that wasn't true. That was just Uncle Bob trying to cause shit, feeling bad about it, and then killing himself. So that seemed to absolve Kate in the eyes of the journalists, of the public, and they won't believe any salacious stories they might hear about her now because it was from Uncle Bob and he was probably unstable and he killed himself. So moving on.
Did y'all make the parallel of that suicide and the letter that Uncle Bob sent to the press, did you make that parallel to that of Peach from season 1, Beck's friend, when Joe like went and hunted her down, murdered her, made it look like she shot herself, and left a suicide note on the laptop for the police to find?
I didn't even remember all of that. So no, I didn't. Season 1 has been so long ago. And
Yeah.
You is not a show that I go back and rewatch. Like, I'm like, no, just watch
Oh,
it.
I have. This says a lot about me, apparently.
Good.
Oh Lord. Frank, what are your thoughts on Joe tapping back into his actual true self? Because throughout this episode, he of course is narrating and always saying you, but you is kind of used interchangeably, whether it's you, the person of interest, or you referring to maybe his disassociative self, right? That was kind of a big story in the previous season, and how the two personalities finally like merged as one. I forgot what my original question was. Sorry. I just went. Just tell us your thoughts about Joe tapping back into his true nature.
The rich element of this show, whether it's Love's family, whether it's Kate and her family and her friends from last season, the problem I have with that fabric of the story is when Love and or Kate are involved with this man, and they tell this man to only be 20% of who he is. Oh, you can't. Yeah, I asked you to kill Bob, but I don't want you to relish killing people. Even though I helped wipe your past, and even though you told me you killed a politician, and even though you told me you've killed women and killed all these people. Yeah, but I don't want you to be that guy. I want you to be a lesser version of that guy. And like the first 5 episodes of this season of watching Kate, and my frustration with Kate is that you cleaned up this man. You created this Prince Charming image. You know what he's about. You know what he's capable of. You know he's off his rocker. You know he's killed people. You ask him to kill a family member of yours. He does it with no question. And then you're mad, and like now you see him as a monster because he doesn't feel guilt, but you feel guilt. Serial killers don't feel guilt. That's why they're serial killers. Like I don't like that part of the writing does not make sense to me. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, maybe Kate's a twin. Maybe this is a different person. Maybe Joe's fucking 2 people that look like Kate. Because the Kate from last season that came from Europe here to this country and brought this man, and the Kate that I see this season are 2 different people, and I don't understand it. Like I don't get why she feels like she's sleeping with a monster when you married the monster and you knew what the monster was when you married. You cleaned this monster up and you put a bow and tie on him, and then you think because you clean up this stray dog and give him a flea remover but he has a vicious past. He's bitten 9 people and killed 9 cats. You think that he's gonna just be just normal? I don't get that. And it's the same thing with Love from season 2 and season 3. Like Love murdered people too. Like she set up a scenario to where she can run into Joe in the grocery store and fall in love with this person, and then become so distraught and frustrated that Joe is not paying attention to her, and Joe is falling in love with other people. Joe is a love bomber. He is looking for the next new thrill. What makes you think you're the end all be all? And these women, I don't understand these women when Joe has shown you who he is. And I'm not condoning what Joe has done. Joe's a murderer. He's a piece of shit. He needs to die. He's not long for this world. But these bitches know who they're marrying, and these bitches know who they're fucking with, and they don't want this nigga to change. I don't get that. I don't. You don't marry a fuck nigga and be like, please be a gentleman. That's not how it works. That's not how life works.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. We'll touch back about that when you watch part 2. We'll come back to that for sure. Anyway, to wrap up episode 1 of this premiere, hold on, I just lost my place. Sorry. Joe discovers that Bronte is sleeping back at Mooney's and offers her a job. Obviously, you know, he's flirting with the idea of flirting with her or what have you. And that's when he goes back to the basement to, you know, turn on the light. We see the glass cage once again. So yeah, but to go back to your point about Kate, she uses Joe for her convenience. And it's also likened to that of her father in the second episode that we're about to get into. It's a point that Reagan makes to Kate about how, oh, you know, it's interesting that this vote of no confidence was going to happen, and then Uncle Bob winds up dead. You know, it's kind of like when Dad had, you know, how many people got in Dad's way and then wound up dead. You know what I'm saying? It's that killer instinct, right? We'll talk more about that just right now. Let's talk about episode 2. Blood Will Have Blood. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, apparently, with little Henry. Poor little Henry. I love this kid. I'm rooting for him as well. He gets into an altercation with his cousin Gretchen at school, where he punches the shit out of Gretchen, breaks her nose. And of course, Reagan, her mother, is pissed. She just wants to take punishment all the way to the top, where Henry's going to be potentially suspended as well as expelled. Marcy, when the counselor at the school is talking to Joe and Kate about Henry's early life and, you know, how they reveal that it was unstable and what have you, what did you make of her kind of triggering Joe in a way? And we're starting to see some flashbacks of Joe's childhood that we've seen in previous seasons.
I was surprised that he didn't like go off on her. I was very concerned for this woman who, shout out, she is an OG from Law and Order SVU, so always good to be able to see her, especially in these types of roles. But I was like, do not get on this man's bad side, counselor, please. Like, you don't know who you are dealing with. But you could tell that obviously Kate and Joe both felt bad about it, but Joe felt like this is just kind of like a testament of like the genetics, right? Like, he knows that he's actually trying for Henry to like be a good dad to Henry, no matter what he's done previously. But this feels like, again, like saying what you are trying to do isn't good enough because of what you've done before, but also because of who you are and like what you bring genetically to Henry's life. So, yeah, you could start to see that he's starting to get triggered, which, right, like he's got that on his mind. And then again, like Kate's wanting him to kill Uncle Bob and like return to those ways. So yeah, I think that is what starts setting him up for everything else that he went on to do this season.
And Frank, you know, as the story progresses, Joe will later learn from Henry the real reason why he got into that fight with Gretchen. And it was because Gretchen had overheard her mother, Reagan, say some really nasty things about Henry's mother. And I don't know if you caught it then, but it was very vague. Mother, right? Not specifically birth mother, but mother. When Kate wants to have like the family over for dinner to just try to smooth things over, did the dinner go as you would have expected it to go? And tell us what went on during that dinner.
No, I did not. Reagan comes off as somebody who relishes in people's suffering and relishes in people's embarrassment. And you know, Kate knows that, okay, Reagan has to know something about what happened in London. She has to know something about myself or Joe or both of us. Because she's going like and now Uncle Bob is gone. Like, there's just too many coincidental things happening that favors Kate that Reagan wants to unveil. And I think I think Kate knows that, so she pretty much created this dinner to like grovel at Reagan's feet, hoping that she doesn't press charges for Henry hitting Gretchen, right? And the shit just goes left. it just goes left. Like Reagan goes from like, like just enjoying like the suffering to like questioning Kate's parenting skills and Joe's parenting skills, and then all of a sudden a fucking knife gets thrown at Reagan. Like it just from Henry, it's just a shitstorm of like chaos at that dinner. And I think at that point, Joe is like, this bitch got to go. Like she's causing too much shit. My son hates her. I'd hate her. Kate's trying to be civil and let bygones be bygones. And like she's making it worse. Bitch got to go. That's according to Joe. So that was like, Marcy, that dinner reminded me of the dinner on Yellowstone between the with oh man, old girl, the vegetarian in bed. Oh my god.
Oh my god. I remember because I was running that pod and y'all were hosting it. I remember listening to it just like on the back end, and I'm like, this sounds fucking nuts.
It gave me remnants of that dinner and how left that went so quickly. But from that dinner, you learn, I mean, there was a finality to it. Like, I think Joe pretty much made his decision. Like, look, she got to go. And I think that dinner too created a bigger rift between Kate and Joe as well, because Joe is just so hard pressed of like murdering the world and using an excuse to protect his family. And Kate's like, this is not who we are. We're not these people, even though you are those people. Like, get your uncle, bro. Like you gave the go ahead. Like you are those people. And I think it's kind of weird, but Joe's kind of right. Like Joe has no problem like embracing who they are, embracing why they are here, what got them here. And Kate's trying to like do shit, but like keep her hands clean. And you can't do both, so
yeah. There was a lot that went on in that family dinner. First of all, it was just meant to be Kate, Joe, Reagan, and her husband, Harrison. Harrison is a former football player, one too many concussions, yet he takes beatings from Reagan on a daily basis, it sounds like. And then Reagan will bring in her twin sister, Maddie, who brings a date, but Kate has Teddy in her corner. And so it's just like this really big family thing that it escalates from one thing to another, where Reagan, like you said, wants to just make everyone suffer, right? And then throws in this whole thing about, Kate, I think you had Uncle Bob killed. And it's just like, whoa, where did this come from? Joe's like, shit, I love the inner monologue, of course. And I love Teddy for jumping in to say, oh, Reagan, like as usual, this is your bullshit. But I've seen the video footage from security cameras of Bob's death. There's no way that Kate would have done that. I love that he, stuck up for his sister, right? You just got to love that so much. But for then Kate to say, I'm sorry, not Kate, for Reagan to say to Kate that she's coming after her with everything that she can. She was going to find out whatever it was that Bob found out. She was going to, make sure that Kate pretty much just lost everything, lost her job, lost her wealth, lost her, family. And then Henry just comes in from out of nowhere with a freaking butter knife. Thankfully, it was a butter knife. He made a good choice, it not being a sharpened butcher knife. But he, with impressive force, chucks that knife and hits Reagan upside her head. And Marcy, was it you in our group chat that like had the Love Quinn shot of her like sharpening the knife?
Yeah. Like mother, like son. And like you said, he made a good choice and he also made a good shot. And Frank, that actually reminded me, didn't remind me of Yellowstone, reminded me of the bear the forks episode where John Bernthal is throwing the fork. So I also thought of like a very dysfunctional family dinner with silverware being thrown.
That was a Christmas dinner, right?
That was the Christmas.
Yeah.
That was insane. So Henry's got a little bit of that violence genetically living in there. But Reagan, watch out, because if Joe doesn't come for you, little Henry will.
Okay, like let's be real. But yes, Joe does propose to Kate about killing Reagan. She's like, that's not who we are. And he's like, what do you mean that's not who we are? What did you just ask me to do but a week ago? Like, you asked me to go kill Uncle Bob, and I did. But yeah, that's not going to stop Joe. Frank, Joe goes into Reagan's office to try to knock her out, kidnap her, and what have you. But walk us through what Joe witnessed.
So Joe, in his stealthy self that he often moves when he's about to harp on his prey, he sees what he believes to be Reagan and Harrison role playing like this robbery asphyxiation thing. I don't know, but like he walks in on that and he's like, what the fuck? And he hides. And I think Harrison goes to get something, and Joe pushes him into the closet, closes the closet, comes back and knocks who he believes to be Reagan over the head to bring him back to his cage / lair. He brings this young lady back to his lair, and she finally awakens, and she goes ballistic, and based on the mannerisms and how she's reacting, he's like, oh fuck, this is the wrong fucking twin. This is Maddie. This is not fucking Reagan. And that
was that. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off real quick. That was because Kate Kate gets a call from Reagan about how she's gonna press charges towards them and Henry for what he did to Gretchen. And she's like, I'm coming after you guys. Like this is real. And Joe freaks out. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, I locked the thing. I checked it 3 times. Like, how could you have gotten out? Please continue.
And that's when we realized, oh shit, the twins been fucking Reagan's husband for the last X however long, and they've been rendezvousing during this time. So Joe tries to use that as to his advantage. Like, okay, well, I don't want to kill you, so I have something on you. You're fucking your sister's husband, so I can let you go. But we have to agree. I can't. I have something on you, so you promise. And Maddie, who comes up as kind of dingy, but she turns into this intelligent, Inspector Gadget, Sherlock Holmes character inside this cage. You're not gonna do this because of X, Y, and Z, and I have this on you, and you're desperate, and all this type of shit. And yeah, it's probably her best act. It's probably her best role. Since Sinners, man, I have really grown an appreciation of actors or actresses playing 2 different a set of twins and with contrasted personalities. That's really hard to do, and she does a great job playing both of those girls.
For sure. And with that, Frank, that leads us into episode 3, entitled Imposter Syndrome, where Joe is trying to convince Maddie to cooperate, and he will let her out of the cage. But she is being very uncooperative. And we learned also too, I think in episode 2, that Maddie is a diabetic, which kind of is very important in episode 3 because of how things play out in episodes to come. But Joe is also feeling very alienated by Kate. But Marcy, let's talk about Joe's relationship with Bronte. Bronte is very suspicious, or not suspicious, but she's very curious about Mooney's and that door that leads to the basement that he told her, to not go into. But she ends up exploring, if you will, right? She pick locks the door to get in, and she discovers the cage. Tell us what happens next.
She, I guess, looked up a YouTube video on how to pick a lock. So being resourceful, good for you, gets in, is like, what the hell? Gets locked in the cage and then has to wait until Joe comes in to find her there. And I thought he would have freaked out more than he did when he found her there. Obviously, he was very upset. It ended up with him firing her, right? But obviously he was able to make up bullshit like he always does and like give her some kind of plausible explanation, even though I still would have been like, no, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell? Like, you are a creep. I don't buy whatever you're selling. But now the stakes are higher because there's somebody who knows about the cage, and what does that mean for Joe? Like, I think that again continues to add more of like the stress that Joe already has throughout this season. And I think maybe if he didn't have so much of that stress, probably body count would have been a little bit lower. But I mean, body count this season wasn't as high as previous seasons. So Joe had some growth, right? Like, give him some credit.
Yeah, I failed to mention earlier too. I did want to talk about the acting chops of these actors, right? Joe, in that particular moment that you just described, Marcy, of the explanation he gave to Bronte about, why is this cage here? Why, what have you? And he really opens up, but he opens up very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was not quite ferocious. It's visceral. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very visceral. Him revealing what he endured with Mr. Mooney in that cage. And I got to hand it to Penn Badgley for someone who actually really does not like the character that he plays. He puts everything into his performance as Joe Goldberg. And it's those moments that make the show just so captivating to watch. And we see those kind of outbursts periodically throughout this season, and not just from him, but Anna Camp in her dual roles as Maddie and Reagan Lockwood. I was just purely impressed. I just had to put in that little tidbit about there. But the relationship between Joe and Bronte improves because he does rehire her to work the bookstore, and they begin to grow closer. Obviously, they in this episode will go purchase romance novels at her request because Mooney's is sorely lacking in it. But that leads to going to like this literary center, I guess. Like, it's what did they call it back in the day? Like slam poetry or something like that.
I think she called it a salon.
A salon. Yes, thank you. Frank, we meet a new character at this center by the name of Clayton. Clayton apparently is an ex of Bronte's, and Clayton is played by Tom Francis. What did you make of that interaction with Joe going into that center, meeting Clayton, and Clayton reading a very erotic poem that Bronte once wrote, apparently? Because I know you tapped into poetry readings and things like that. So how did that all kind of work out for you?
How did I took the scene of him writing that poetry? It was very, very evasive, very crude, very distrustful, distrusting. But leading up to that point, I could tell that Bronte was not who she said she was or who she appeared to be. And for her character, what I saw so far, I saw somebody trying to be somebody that she's not, or trying to leave a previous life and leave that in the past by moving forward and creating a new life for herself. And in some respects, an opportunist, right? Like,
Sure.
From when I saw Clayton, I'm like, oh, they fucked. I don't know when they fucked, but they have some type of like history of them fucking. And like that man feels slighted, And that was a get back. Like I could tell when he started saying that poem, that was a get back. That came from a position of hurt, a position of frustration from his part. Not saying he's right, but that was his get back. And that told me more about Bronte, about like who she is and like who she deals with in a certain fashion. And you know, when she operates out of hurt, a lot of times it comes out of like sex, erotica, and just wanting to be close to somebody to mask whatever she's going through. And sometimes when she does that emotionally, she kind of like creates a path of destruction. And I think Clayton was somebody that was one of her victims when it came to like emotional damage, and he made that known by sharing something that was very confidential between, you know, him and her.
And not just that, he also reveals to Joe, I still want to say Joel, he reveals to Joe about Bronte having stolen money and having having revealed her true name, right? Her name is Louise Flannery. She's from Ohio. She's like a dental hygienist, a former, you know, so to say, to your point, that she created this sort of alternate persona, right? To kind of escape all that and try to be someone that she is not quite successful at. It's enough to really make Joe fall in love with her more, right? Like this broken spirit that he needs to protect, that he needs to fix, right? Because that's who Joel Goldberg is, right? He is there to protect love at all costs. Loose interpretation, but anyway. Let's talk about Kate. Marcy, Kate, during this whole thing, Kate is still trying to work on Reagan, right? Trying to just smooth things over and make sure that this isn't going to go sideways, whatever the case may be about pressing charges, the hit piece, and so on and so forth. But when Kate goes to visit Reagan at her house, because Kate has learned that Reagan has been embezzling money, and she's going to go reveal this to Reagan, Reagan's actually devastated. Why? Tell us why.
She has found out that Harrison has been doing her sister, her twin. Unforgivable, right? The security at the office has found him locked in the closet. And then Kate's like, well, who was he with? Well, they found Maddie's cell phone left behind, so they can only assume that it was with Maddie, and now Maddie is nowhere to be found. So she's probably run off in shame or she's scared. But Reagan is a woman scorned. So she is now, not only are like Kate and Joe and like Henry on her shit list, obviously her husband is, her twin sister is as well. And you know, when Kate, I think, thought that Reagan would be she is devastated, but that makes her more angry. And, you know, she's not like the poor woman that has just found out her husband has cheated and wounded. She's like, no, I'm fucking mad. Now I'm like coming for everybody. So that doesn't kind of get her off Kate's trail. Like she's like, no, I'm also coming for you still, bitch, but I'm also going for them. So she is just rage personified at this point. And who can blame her?
Yeah. I mean, in that moment, they at least agree to leave the children out of it, right? They've got bigger issues than what's going on with the kids. Like it seems that maybe Reagan will be cooperative in that respect, to be determined. Frank, let's talk about Joe and Bronte once again. That, you know, they're starting to get a little bit closer, obviously, because Bronte was embarrassed, devastated. As I said, Joe is going to protect love and fight for it, but he, at this point, starts beginning to obsess about Bronte. And I can't remember if it's in this particular episode or not, but he starts writing about her and starts doing more than just that and fantasizing and things like that. You had mentioned earlier about the overall thoughts on part one of this season, that there were some things that I guess are being repetitive. I believe that's what you said. Was this kind of one of the things that you were referring to?
Not so much of that, more so of like the love bombing that he does on himself. I don't see, because a lot of times with love bombing, I take it as it's a disingenuous act of like trying to get what you want, like up front, like in the short term. Where for Joe, he does it, but I don't think he does it. He doesn't know he's doing it intentionally, because he really believes that this is the one. He really believes that this person gets him, and then he expedites those feelings and tries to fast track it as quickly as possible. And then once he has it, he realizes, oh, she don't get me. Oh, she doesn't accept me. Oh, this is not what she doesn't want the real me or all of me. And you saw that with Love. Once he got Love, you saw that in more of a smaller sense with the neighbor in season 4. I mean, season 3 in Linda. You saw that with her before Love axed her. You saw that with Kate last season, of like this, this whole like she gets me, or like I can fully be myself, as broken as I am. She accepts me and I accept her, and I want to protect her. That has become repetitive over and over and over again. And again, you see with Bronte, somebody who's broken, somebody who comes from a fucked up, not upbringing, but like her, caring for her mother all those years and being her caretaker, and like her trying to find herself, and she's just broken. And like he has this affinity to want to fix broken things, right? That part has become repetitive, and like it's just cookie cutter. You just take a new girl and just put it in that stencil. It's the same shit every fucking season. That part is annoying. I must say, just on a more serious note, that takes real imaginative talent to beat off without looking at a visual aid. That's amazing. To get off in your own writing, like imaginatively, like creatively, I can't do that. I need a muse to beat off of. To do that with like just off your writing, that's elite writing. Like he should be like Stephen King level, like he should be like J.R. Tolkien, like he should be an elite. He should be like a world famous author right now. Like I want to have that level of being able to beat off without visual aid. That's amazing. Jesus. That's so amazing. And to do it like off your, bro, you're doing it off your own writing. That's crazy. That's amazing. Off a thought. Like that's crazy to me. That's talent, bro. That's talent. He's the Jordan of beating off. That is talent right there. I've never seen anything like it before. Sorry, go ahead.
God almighty. Okay, we're gonna move away from that particular subject and go back to Joe and Kate, because albeit he is developing feelings towards Bronte, writing about her, fantasizing about her, he's still hoping that his marriage isn't completely done with Kate, right? He is trying to get her to accept her darkness, like the dark side of her that she refuses to let out, right? Like he has openly come to terms with who he is, the all sides of him, right? All facets of him. We saw that in the previous season where he tried to commit suicide, but it was Kate who fucking saved him. And he revealed to her, hey, I've done bad things, da 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 da. And in that last scene of the final episode where he's looking in the window, the reflection looking back at him is that of Reese, right? The alter ego who is bad, if you will. Joe's come to terms with who he is, the light and the dark of him, however much light there may be of him, but he's trying to get that out of Kate. Marcy, I mean, this is just not going to go anywhere. right? Like for her to accept her darkness is just kind of beyond any hope, right? She wants Joe's help, but not the killing sort. Make it make sense.
I mean, yeah, like Frank said, like you've asked him to do this one more time, but you know that he can't stop. So like you are setting him on his path of destruction. I'm not saying like she's the villain, but damn girl, like you got him to do it for something you needed, but then as soon as like he wanted to do it again for you, like to kill your sister because she's causing trouble for you, then you're like, okay, like no, that's enough. Yeah, I have a lot of problems with that, but she is redeemed. I think she's redeemed a lot, especially in the second half of the season, but make up your mind. Like, what do you want, Kate? Like, do you want him to fully embrace like the killing, or obviously he can't control it, and you should know that. And yeah, that's a problem that I had with Kate this first half of the season. Like I said, in the second half, now I'm like fully rooting for her. And yeah, she is the villain. It's a good take, because would Joe have killed Uncle Bob if Kate hadn't said that she wanted him to? When they run into that city council member, I think in episode 1, starting to like talk about like, oh, like he's making trouble for her, I need to protect her. And she's like, no, like don't even worry about him. Like I took care of it. Like he's not even going to have a job. And we see them in the bathroom and we're like, oh, like, are you going to kill him even though Kate told you not to? And he doesn't. He restrains himself. So is Kate the one that set everything off?
Frank, I'm going to mention this to you because I know you watched Daredevil and we covered Daredevil. That what Marcy just said about Joe wanting to take out the councilman, but Kate's like, no, I've already taken care of it. That gave me Heather vibes of like, oh, Daredevil saved you. No, I saved me.
It really did. I'm like, really, bitch? That's you taking care of it. You're doing a bang up job right now, taking care of things right now, fam. The family is at a threat of losing every fucking thing, and you're doing a bang up job of just taking care of everything. I see.
Yeah.
But I mean, like her dad, like her upbringing, she lacks the ability to like hit the trigger button and take accountability. It's the reason why her father and her were at odds, because her father just kept telling her, you don't have the kill factor, you don't have the it factor to like go through with shit and get things done without remorse. And it's like your hesitation is gonna fuck around and cause everything. Like Reagan being dead and being gone is partly because of you, because you opened up Pandora's box telling Joe to kill Uncle Bob. Like you knew what that was going to do. You don't take a people off the leash and be like, hey, I want you go for that man's throat, but don't do it again. Just be a good dog from here on out. Like that's not how it works. That's that man's primal. That's who he is at a primal level. Joe's a killer. That's just who he is.
Well, let's finish up talking about episode 3. Of course, Joe's not getting anywhere with Kate, but Kate does see the live broadcast of Reagan posing as Maddie on a live stream where she is giving up her board vote in order to destroy Kate. Because if Maddie were to defer her vote to Reagan, then Reagan now has 2 votes. They're going to be able to outrule anything Kate says or does. So Joe, throughout this episode, goes back and forth to talk to Maddie to, once again, get her to cooperate. She sounds like this bonkers ass story of her at 16, having gone to Brazil, gets like kidnapped, her ear gets chopped off. She's like, oh yeah, this isn't original. It's like reconstructed. I'm like, okay, sure. But she shares this story with Joe to basically show, listen, I'm not what everyone thinks I am. I am also ruthless. Like I am a survivor. So this cage that you have me in, you got to do better. You got to do better than that. The only thing that's not going to help her is the fact that she is without her insulin. And that is leverage for Joe, because he wants her to pose as Reagan so that Reagan can be taken down. So into episode 4, entitled My Fair Maddie, Joe attempts to get Maddie to act like Reagan, but is making very little progress. And after having some kind of conversation with Bronte, I can't remember the full-on details right now, Joe finds inspiration for Maddie and kind of takes on this persona as if he is Reagan. Frank, by kind of doing like this role playing kind of bit for Maddie to kind of help her tap into like this anger that she has like suppressed for so long. What did you think of the acting job between Penn and Anna in this particular scene?
It's really hard to do, like to for one, to play two different characters of the set of twins who look alike, who sound alike, but like have just a vital, stark differences of personalities between them, is amazing. To do it just off and on the way she does had to take practice. Like you don't just get out of bed and just play two twins of different ilk without practice. And like she had me believing that she was really a twin. I mean, I know she's not a twin, but watching these 5 episodes, I'm like, this bitch is a twin. This is crazy. And I forgot that she was playing twins. I'm sorry, what's the question? I totally lost track. What she was asking me.
Joe is impersonating Reagan, if you will, speaking to Maddie in the cage as if Reagan were speaking to her, like, yes. no one cares about you. You're nothing. You could be thrown away. No one couldn't care less about you. And it's egging her on.
Yeah.
To tap into every feeling that she's ever suppressed about herself at the expense of Reagan, because of what Reagan has been telling her.
She was acting for her life. That's how I took it as, because I took it as Joe pleading to her, like, look, bitch, I'm trying to get you to play this role because I don't want to kill you. So this is the grand finale. This is the end all be all. I need you to make it look convincing that you can be Reagan. Do it not for you, do it for me, so I don't have to kill you. So I think that was a way of Joe pleading to her as one last plea to get her shit together and let's get this ruse going so I can set you free and not to kill you. That was, I think, in a lot of respects, in a fucked up level, but that was Joe showing grace of like lending out that olive branch of hope. Like, look, I want to let you free, but I gotta have something on you. I gotta make sure that we have this understanding that if I set you free, you gotta carry this on and make it look believable, because now my fate is tied to you. Once I let you out this cage, when I can't just kill you and just call it a day. One thing that's been on brand for Joe in the 5 seasons of watching him, or 4 seasons and 5 episodes of watching him, is that he doesn't kill innocent people. Like that's not like, as far as like just like people that he don't see as a threat, or people that he doesn't see as like threatening his livelihood or like getting in his way of harming him. He doesn't want to harm people, and I think that's the split that we saw in season 4 of Joe and Reese. Or Joe or evil Joe. Like that Joe is like, he checks he acts on his worst impulses. He enjoys what he does. It gives him a thrill of killing. It gives him a thrill of like hurting people. And I think Joe, the angel Joe, the one that wants to help people, and the one that wants to lend out a helping hand with that anything in return, that's the Joe I think that was pleading to Maddie to play this role of a lifetime. It was a great scene. I don't know how many takes it took, but that's a very emotional scene. I know for Penn to play that, and he already hates playing the character, but I think that probably took a lot out of him to like go back and forth, raise his voice. Because Joe in general, like if you watch him throughout the seasons, he doesn't really show his anger. I mean, it comes out in the most random ways when it comes out to murder and like frustration, but like you don't really see him raise his voice and get aggressive. And I think that was one of the few times you saw that in that scene. So it was a great scene. That's acting at its best. Like an average actor cannot convey that scene and make it look believable. both those actors did, and it was bravo to them.
For sure. And as all this is happening on Joe's side, Kate is once again going to Reagan and saying, "Hey, you gotta stop what you're doing, or else I'm gonna go public about this embezzlement thing." Reagan counterattack. I can't say that word. Sorry. She comes back with saying, "Yeah, well, if you were to do that, I'm gonna reveal that you and Joe, or Joe, killed Montrose and Bob. I'm going to force you to resign, and I'm just going to expose everything about you." Kate is going to go back home to Joe to tell him all of this, and he's like, "Listen, Reagan must die." And Kate's still not for it. She's like, "Listen, I admit I wanted her dead, but I reject that side of me, and in both of us." So, Marcy, Joe's going to take matters into his own hands, as he always does. What happens when Joe goes to Reagan's home?
He gets his ass beat.
Yeah, he really does.
And it's hilarious because,
So good.
I mean, I could buy that Reagan is strong and probably works out and takes probably kickboxing classes and self-defense and martial arts and everything. So that was just such a fun scene to watch because, again, Joe is bad, right? Joe is a bad person. So it is good when bad things happen to him, right? When his ass is going to be beat, when people are able to run away from him without being murdered. So I really enjoyed it. And Reagan really held her own until he just kind of got her upside the head with that bowling pin. But it was really fun to watch Joe get his ass beat because he didn't expect it. He thought she was just going to be easy to take down, and no, she was not. And she has a very nice and lovely and huge house with a bowling alley in it. So it's good to be a Nepo baby and be the CFO of your dad's company.
It was funny how over the intercom at one point you hear her say to Joe, not knowing it's Joe, "You picked the wrong house, bitch."
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah. Anna Camp, I never realized that she had all of this inside of her, right? I love her in Pitch Perfect. I haven't seen her in too many other things, but to see her in You like this, I'm like, girl, I need to see more unhinged white girl. Please, I need to see it. Frank, Joe will eventually knock out Reagan and bring her back to the cage to be reunited with Maddie, right? And Maddie's doing better now. She's had her insulin, and Joe was kind enough to actually give her the thing that she needs in order to stay alive, because otherwise he's going to have a dead body in that cage, and he really didn't want that to happen to her. But he puts the decision on Maddie about what to do with Reagan. And he says, "Hey, kill her and you can get out." That's a lot to ask for. Did you see that coming at all? Or did you hope that maybe the twins would put the differences aside and be like, "Listen, we got to work together. We got to figure out how to get out of here, how to outsmart him"? Or did it play out the way that you would have expected it to?
I took that more so as Joe's last desperation plea. He knows that Reagan's the ultimate threat to destroying their kingdom, being Kate, Henry, and himself. And he is a betting man. He's like, "Look, it's not hard to see in the 3 years I've been in this family that Reagan is pretty much the cunt of this family that nobody likes." And he's pretty much betting on he's betting on I don't know how old she's playing in these twins, but he's betting 30 years of frustration of one twin being marginalized, being treated as, sorry, it's my dog in the background, being treated as a second-class citizen, I'm betting on that. I'm betting that she is going to be like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit, and I want to make sure that she finally goes into this wish of like bringing this to life, of killing her and being done with this. So, you know, it is what it is.
Marcy, you have any additional thoughts on Joe basically making Maddie do his dirty work and turning her into a murderer?
I thought Joe was probably going to play Maddie and end up killing them both, because maybe he didn't think she could really like keep the secret. So I was surprised. And the scene with both of them in there, right? Like, you can understand, I think, a little bit of why Maddie would do it. She's airing her grievances to Reagan, and Reagan's unmoved and just kind of is still being a bitch to her. However, I was hoping that they would like find a way to work together and get out, and that Reagan would stop being so much of a bitch to her sister. But when we find out that she actually did, I thought, oh shit, what if Reagan ended up killing Maddie and then deciding that she wanted to pretend to be Maddie so Joe would let her out? But then I was like, no, she wouldn't know that Joe told her she would let her out, so that wouldn't have worked.
True. I thought the same thing, but then I realized that Reagan had painted nails and Maddie didn't, so that would have been like a really hard, like for me, it would have been so noticeable. Yeah, I mean, I think Reagan would have just kind of bargained or had Maddie like reveal that bit of truth to her before she would have murked her. Like, hey, what did he say to you would happen if I got in here? Oh, I have to kill you so I can get out. Okay, you know. It would just seem the most logical. But I couldn't believe that he actually was getting other people to do his dirty work like that. And I don't think it's happened like that in previous seasons that I can recall off the top of my head. If y'all remember, please, interrupt me and tell me. But for for Maddie to use her insulin shot to kill Reagan that way, I was like, damn, that is one way to go. And I also want to know what he did with the body, because I don't think we actually ever like found out what he did with the body.
We didn't find out.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, maybe he didn't dispose of her well, or maybe she was still alive and we'll see her again. But
no,
we did not see her again. R.I.P. Reagan. As Frank said, you were the cunt of the family. So good riddance to you.
For sure. Let's talk about the reopening of Mooney's. This is something that Joe and Bronte have been working on for a period of time. It's crashed by Clayton and his friend Dominique, who claims, hey, I told him not to come here, but he gets into a heated argument with Bronte, and then of course Joe intervenes. Naturally, we see the escalation of his affection towards Bronte grow. They're gonna eventually hook up, right? Because Joe believes that his marriage is broken at this point, because of the fact that Kate completely just rejects his darkness, her darkness, whatever you call that. But I think the more interesting side of this particular episode is that Maddie actually follows through with impersonating Reagan at that board meeting, right? That at the board meeting where Kate is about to resign, but Maddie/Reagan interrupts her and says, oh, Kate, like, why are you dragging this out? And she stands up. She's like, I'm resigning, and I'm, whatever. I'm resigning. Kate proposes that Teddy be made a member of the board. Maddie Reagan, puts both hands up because she's got 2 votes. And Kate doesn't buy any of this whatsoever. Frank, what did you make of the scene when she confronts Joe about like, what did you do? What did you say to Reagan? And he's just like, nothing. Like, nothing. What did you make of all that?
I thought it was poor writing. I just feel like the last couple episodes of that part of that storyline has been just a round to go round of like weirdness and like what's the word I should use, of like irresponsibility and like not taking accountability on Kate's part of like what she created and like what she asked of Joe, and to like be mad about it, like, because at a deep level she does not want to give up her seat as CEO of Lockwood. She wants that, and like she wants to have the upper hand, not on her family, but at least on Reagan. This back and forth of like battling for power. But I think she wanted to do her way, do it like in the boardroom and not like with murder, even though she started this shit with murder of like retaining power. So I think for me I think it plays more into Kate's power trip and like her needing to control everything and needing to be the reason why things are going the way they are going. And if she gets help, whether it's directly or indirectly, she has to question it, especially if she's not the one that's like pulling the strings. And she can't take it. She can't stand to have things done on her part, on her behalf, or favors done on her behalf. And it feels like for her, it's like it's a loss for her if she's not doing it for herself, or if she's not the reason why she's being successful. Like, look, you got your father's company because he's dead, not because you earned it. like stop acting like you did all this yourself. Like you just so happened to be the oldest sibling. You so happened to be the next in line, and it was put in your lap when your father died. Like let's not act like you got this through blood, sweat, and tears. And I think she's living in this fantasy world of like thinking that she did all this on her own, when like a lot of like nepotism, like a lot of like rich white folks across the world, a lot of shits inherit shit because they were born in the right family. That's just what it is. Yeah. And like she doesn't want to recognize that. So
Marcy, any additional thoughts as we wrap up episode 4?
No, it was perfect. Everything Frank just said. I'm like, yep. Nepotism, nepo baby, but I still love you, Kate. So
I mean, she's good peeps. Like I said, she's haunted by her past decisions, and she's trying to do right, and she's trying to be good, which, I think that's what any decent human being would try to do. It's just the perspectives of what is right that clash with that of her husband's, who thinks, well, what's right is protecting the people that I love, and I will go to any lengths in order to protect the people that I love. So, just different interpretations, right? So we are almost there, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in with us as we are breaking down episodes 1 through 5. We're going to talk about Last Dance, episode 5 of season 5 of You. Maddie is traumatized by Reagan's death and continues to impersonate her to keep up normal life, if you will. And she is struggling because it's all going to come blow up in her face eventually, right? Kate is also investigating Joe, right? She, didn't want to know about Joe's past in, back in the day, but now she does. And she learns about his affair with Bronte, as well as Marianne, and suspects that he indeed killed Love. So are we at all surprised that Kate, finally threw the blinders off and is like, oh my God, who did I marry? Or it's just like, really? Like, come on. Frank, I'm gonna get your thoughts real quick before you got to head out. But, I mean, she woke up apparently.
I don't know, man. I've been saying this throughout this whole podcast. If I have to clean somebody's image of murder, deceit, the man fled the country, y'all. The man fled the country because he was on the run. He faked his death. That right there is enough to be like, red flag, maybe. I don't. Why are you fleeing the country and going with a different name? Like that should have been enough of a red flag. And then the second red flag was you asked this man to kill somebody, which that's on you, Kate, and he doesn't even flinch. He has erotic murder writing in his bookstore about the creatively killing people. Like what? I don't like what. This is my problem with certain women, man. Like you blame men for being shit, and then you bypass Highway 59 and Highway 45 and Highway 288, all these fucking red flags, and we're getting these red lights, and be like, oh, I didn't know I thought he was a gentleman. Like, bro, what are we doing? Like the writing for that character is almost bonkers for me to see, like, to sit there and be like so shocked and so like distracted and so like enthralled and like offended, like this man is capable of doing this shit, when you are enabling this motherfucker. You enabled him. I don't get it. I do not get it.
When
I don't know
you
what your question
watch,
was. I'm just like, this is kind of how I feel about this shit.
it's fine. When you've watched the rest of the season, the finale, I'm going to send you something that may help with explanation about why this was done the way that it was done. Going back to the episode, of course, there is something happening. Sorry, I keep losing my place, y'all. So while Joe and Bronte are in the moment, apparently Bronte's into like some kinky shit that Joe may or may not have ever done before. It's kind of like not quite like a dom submissive kind of thing. I guess maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know enough about the subject to speak on it, but it's interrupted by a text or a call from Maddie, who again is like freaking out about this whole thing. Joe's like, don't worry, I got a plan. Like, we're going to basically say that Reagan, is going to take a trip. She's going to go to the Philippines. She's going to rent a boat. She's going to die out at sea. Okay, great. But when Joe returns to Mooney's, he finds a typed letter from Bronte saying that she's left town. And, that devastates Joe. It's that very narcissistic, like, well, was this any of this real? Did you ever love me? Did you, the love bombing, but like opposite of love bombing, I guess you could say, right? Marcy, Joe's going to go through hoops to try and find Bronte. Tell us what he does by searching Clayton's apartment.
He's just a fucking stalker. Like, finds out, like, okay, like, if Bronte is gone, maybe she has gone to be with Clayton. So I need to figure out, is Clayton in town? So I'm going to pretend to be like, I forgot what it was, like, come play at like our club or something, or like come read at our poetry slam or whatever. So he like sends Clayton a message and he's like, nope, sorry, I'm out of town right now. So that's when he was like, oh, they're probably together, which, I mean, I will not say that I'm stalker like Joe is, but yes, I have probably also wanted to figure out things before. So he probably employed methods that I would be like, that is a good thing to do. Like, that is smart. So, yes. Joe just like full on stalked him, and he figured out that Bronte was indeed away. She is not here. She is at, I forgot where she is, but she is at a cottage, and obviously not creepily is like, I need to then go and like find her. Yeah. Also another red flag. Mm-hmm. Ladies, please, if a man just like straight up like finds you somewhere, no, just be careful. He is not good.
Yeah. I mean, she did call him from a diner phone that he immediately calls back, gets, picked up by an employee there, finds out the location, drives there. I don't know how far Atlantic Beach is from New York or whatever. I'm guessing it's in Jersey or something, or maybe it's in New York State. I don't know. But yeah, he goes through great lengths to go and try to find her. He does. And it's this whole thing like, yeah, I came here with Clayton. I got to admit that she does tase the shit out of him when entering that home. Like, that was actually quite hilarious in my personal opinion. But Joe basically tells her that the night before he had like this really big argument with Kate, where she's basically saying, I know about all that you've done. I know the real you now. I'm divorcing you. Calls him out for gaslighting her, which I was like, good on you, but like you've also been blind to this whole fucking situation, so this is partly your fault as well. But the gaslighting, I don't know why it's never been so apparent to me until this season in particular. I'm not sure why. Maybe I've also been seeing things through rose-colored glasses as well. But he basically tells Bronte, like, what if you're not the other woman? Like, what if you are the one? And these are all the pretty things that every female or male, wants to hear, right? That they're the one, that we're going to make a life together. Boom. They're going to have some kinky ass sex. And Frank, do you want to weigh in on that?
Oh yeah. I do.
I'm sure you do. Oh, goodness.
As far as you want me to describe what was going on, you
oh God. Not in like grave detail or anything like that, but they finally have their moment to kind of enact this, I guess, fantasy that Bronte has had about kind of being taken or being dominated by.
Yeah, it's almost out of Joe's wheelhouse, because Joe is he's such a caterer, he's such a protector, and he's not one to adhere to his carnal desires of domination. He's more so of like a protector. He's more so of like somebody who wants to, like, make sure you're okay and like protect you and like surround you with his aura of like, safeguardness, and like nobody's gonna get to you. So it's like him kind of playing into that domination role, kind of synonymous with how he kills people. It's out of nowhere. It's very you don't expect it. He's a very unassuming man. When you look at him, you don't think somebody who has murdered dozens of people in the 5 or 7 years that the show has been going on. So like when Bronte brings that out of him, it's almost like he's finally channeling that other side of Joe that we didn't really see until season 4. I guess in full fledged, in the full fledgedness of that persona. And I have a theory. I think that Joe that we saw last season, that Reese / Joe, was the Joe that fucked her in that scene, because that's not Joe. Joe is, in all Joe's love scenes, he's very tender. He's very very passionate. Very it's erotic, but it's like a safe erotic. Like, you're in my arms.
Sensual.
It's very sensual. It's not aggressive. It's not dom. It's not dom-like. It's not dominating. It's not aggressive. It's not violent. When he blindfolds her and starts railing her, that's not Joe. That's Reese Joe. That's the other Joe that's doing that shit. And like, and you can tell, and he has this dialogue of like saying to Bronte, like, I can finally show you this side. He keeps saying this side. And I think that's that side that was hidden for so long until we saw him in season 4.
Throughout, and just this last comment, and then I know you got to head out, but throughout these episodes thus far, he keeps talking about having shown all of himself to her. And he makes the same comment about Kate, but Kate's rejecting him now, whereas Bronte is accepting him. And he's like, I'm seen, and all of me is being seen. And that's like the attractive quality that Bronte possesses that makes Joe want her so. And yeah, but I 100% agree with you about, we saw Reese banging Bronte. That wasn't Joe. Joe is the very sensual, very like, it's about her. and I'm gonna make her feel good. Where this is like, I'm gonna make her feel good, but I'm gonna be fucking in charge and doing it the way that I want to do it. Yeah, that two different personalities.
You saw in season 1 when Guinevere, when it's Guinevere, right? Is it Guinevere?
Yeah,
That
Beck.
The first time they had sex, she wasn't pleased, right? And like he reads the group chat.
Well, yeah, it was 30 seconds.
Yeah, and like she tells the group chat of girls like, oh, it was all right, and I wasn't really pleased. I ain't come. What did Joe go ahead and do next time? He made sure, and I think from that point on, that Joe made sure every encounter I have with any woman that I quote unquote love, I want to make sure that I'm selfless in this. I want to make sure that she comes first, literally and figuratively speaking, and I want to make sure that she is very in tune and safe in my arms. And I think I think that Joe is what we've seen for the duration of the majority of this series until season 4 of the split personality. So I gotta go, but y'all have a great show.
I'm with it. Thanks, Frank. Thanks for being here. Right. Marcy, we're gonna kind of wrap up this episode, but you think all is good and well with Joe and Bronte, right? They've had their moment. He's confessed to her. She's the one. They're going to be together. You don't have to worry about anything situation. But on the flip side of things, Maddie is still having a really, really difficult time with this, being Reagan. And she breaks down when Kate goes to visit to talk to Reagan. Like, why isn't she, returning any of my messages, calls? I want to understand why she resigned. Maddie is like ripping at the seams, right? And eventually the truth comes out. Tell us what happened in that moment when Kate and Maddie have that conversation, and just what was actually happening with Maddie in the meantime, as she's looking at herself in the mirror and being Reagan, but also responding as Maddie.
That was so good. And I was like, she is having a break with reality. She is going to need to be hospitalized because, again, like, she embodied both of those characters on those people very well. Like, again, being Maddie and then answering herself as Reagan, and then like going back and forth, and also like talking to Kate and being Reagan when she's talking to Kate. So did a great job. That's when I was like, she's gonna like need to be hospitalized. Like, she has completely broken. But she holds it together enough to really tell Kate what has happened, and that is now a turning point, another one for Kate to be like, oh shit, okay, like, yeah, Joe is bad, like, bad news, like, everything that I was suspicious about, like, yes, it is all true. And I wonder how much of it internally she was also like, how much of this is like my fault, right? Like, how much of this do I own? But yeah. Perfect scene. Again, Anna Camp did a great job of being both of those convincingly to where Kate was like, okay, I need to open the door to see like what is really going on, because why are you both in there? Other than it's a twin thing, and you didn't really buy that.
Yeah. No, the conversation that she was having with herself, as if Reagan was in the reflection speaking back to her. It was just, it was like almost like an out of body experience. That was quite the performance. I mean, and that's what I will give credit to for this season. Like, we'll talk obviously about the final in part 2 of this pod review, but I will say throughout this season, the acting has just been on fucking point. We're gonna wrap up by the ending, the cliffhanger ending, Marcy, and you watched this before I did and said, okay, the fact that we're doing a part 1 and part 2, this is like the perfect like episode to end on because of the cliffhanger. We see back at the cottage or the beach house that after Joe and Bronte like hooked up, there's a commotion downstairs that Joe investigates, and Clayton's come back to the house and he is having an argument with Bronte. What Joe does is very Joe like, right? He had already kind of threatened Clayton at the bookstore reopening, right? About like after he put his hands on Bronte and he's like, okay, you need to go or else.
Yeah.
But this gets very physical, and it gets very physical very quickly to the point that Clayton's on the ground, Joe's on top of him, trying to strangle him, what would presumably be to death, right? As Bronte's looking on. And you kind of see like that shift change across Joe's face, right? As he's looking at her. Tell us what happens next, Marcy, with Joe and Clayton and the surprise ending.
I was really rooting for Clayton at this point, even before like we knew like everything we found out in the next episodes. But I was like, okay, like beat his ass. Like I am so for like Joe just getting his ass beat this season. So unfortunately, that did not happen because Joe found the strength to just kind of like slam his head down. I think it was like on the edge of the chimney. So it was like brick. So
the fireplace. Yeah,
that
it was
fireplace.
the mantle of like the flooring. Yeah.
Yes. So obviously he's not just knocked out cold. He is dead. And then in come two people who we'd only seen one of those characters before. And then it was another one. They were live streaming the fight and everything that was going on. They caught everything in their stream. And so we're like, okay, what is happening? Who are these people? What is happening? And we see Bronte, Madeline played
Brewer. Yeah.
Thank you. She's holding the taser, and I'm like, oh shit. And then we come to realize that this has all been set up, and Joe is now like, did you catfish me? Like, did you pretty much essentially do to me what I do to everybody else, which is catfish them and pretend to be somebody who I'm not? So I loved that twist. I think that gave it the spark that I needed again, because I was like, okay, like it's kind of going slow. There's lots of twists, turns, like what is going to happen? And then when that happened, I'm like, yes, I am here for it. And then that made kind of going into episode 6 a lot more enjoyable, because I knew it's like, okay, some kind of crazy twist. And now like we get to find out like who Bronte really is, who Louise really is, and like what does it all like mean?
Yeah. Crazy turn of events where you would think it's just going to be another situation where Joe has killed somebody, however unintentional or intentional it may be, but he has a witness in Bronte. But then the burst of the two people that come in and are freaking out, and the one live streaming is basically narrating and say, everyone, Joe Goldberg has killed our friend Clayton. And I mean, I'm not on TikTok. Like I don't do that app. Like I've done the other ones, but I don't do TikTok. And this is one thing from this season that it just drives me bonkers, is the Gen Z like terminology. I'm not 100% with it. I'm a millennial, and I'm like, oh my God, like these terms, I don't understand everything, but it's fine. It works for the character and what have you. But the fact that TikTok obviously is so hot right now, it's relevant, and that's what this show has done so very well, is it makes it very believable that it's happening in the here and now. But the fact that he, who has been deemed as Prince Charming to the media, has murdered somebody, and then like shit's hit the fan at this point for him in his life. And the twist that Bronte seems to be in allegiance with these people, and it's like, what have you done? What's the backstory behind this? What are you going to do after this? What's going to happen to Joe? Like, what's going to happen to him? Is he going to be able to talk his way out of it? Is he going to like be able to, is he going to murder everyone just there and, right there and then as well?
Yeah.
I mean, there was just so many questions I had about what was going to take place in the next 5 episodes of this season. So, yeah.
I also wondered, like, is he just gonna kill everybody right now and like be like, I don't care if they're live streaming? So yeah, it was.
Can you imagine?
Right? Like, but I love the message that this sends of like we as a society like put people up on a pedestal because we think we know who they are. And this happens a lot with celebrities or like public figures that everyone's like, oh, I love him. And like, he's such a good guy. Like, he's a great guy. Like, he's so devoted.
Yeah.
And then like people come up like, come out with stories about them. And we're like, oh, he's not a great guy. He's not who we thought he was. So I like that the show is tackling that aspect of it because there have been so many times where I've been like, oh no, I can't believe this, famous person who I thought was a decent person. Maybe I didn't like idolize them, but I thought they were like a decent person. Has some kind of allegations against them, whether it's like misogyny, racism, sexual assault, anything.
Not Diddy.
Right? Yeah. Like, not Diddy. We grew up with him, right?
Not R. Kelly.
So many people that now I'm like, I can't, like, you're just terrible. And God damn it, if like a bad story comes out about Pedro Pascal, like I am done. Like, no, like please let him actually be good. So,
yeah, I will die on this hill. He is good. He is good. Like, don't let us down, Internet Daddy.
Thank you.
Marcy, is there anything else from this first half of the season that you want to speak on, or any other final thoughts on the first half?
No, it was just, like I said, good way to end this first half, and it really like energized the second half, which also started to drag a little bit, but that twist I think was really good, especially when we find out who are these other people that have now joined the storyline. And who is Clayton? Because we need to find out who Clayton really was.
Clayton. Every time I hear that name, Clayton, I think of that Disney animated Tarzan, where Tarzan's like, Clayton, and he associates the sound of the gun with his name. Yeah, I don't know. Just weird, useless tidbit in my mind. Anyway, once again, y'all, thank you so much for sticking around with us as we break down the first 5 episodes of the final season of Netflix You. I know this was a rather long pod, but y'all are the MVPs for sticking around with us. We hope you have enjoyed it. Shout out to M Moves, Yesenia, and Kimi Johnson for joining us in today's chat. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the like button, and hit that notification bell. That way you can join us for part 2 of this series or season wrap up, if you will, which will be Tuesday, May 6th. So be sure, once again, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment down below on your thoughts of this final season, as well as this podcast. Follow our social media, which you can find the links in the description box down below. And also be sure to check out our audio podcasts available to you on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating. So, Marcy, thank you for hanging in there with me today. I know Frank had a bounce because, he had to go rewatch Sinners, which hopefully a lot more of us will watch the movie and do a review shortly. But we do have other podcasts in the works. We are currently covering The Last of Us, The Handmaid's Tale, and we will also be reviewing the Thunderbolts movie coming out this Friday. So be sure, once again, subscribe, notification bell, you know the drill. So for Marcy, I'm Brittany. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on our season 5 wrap up of You. Until then, be safe out there, y'all.